Hello, we're back again. This is Programming for Artists. It's episode, I have no idea which one. We're into doing things actually in C++ and writing real code, bringing together some of the ideas that we looked at last time. In this episode, looking at variables in C++. So a couple of videos ago, we were looking at writing out what kind of integers, what kind of variables we could have and what a variable was, how it was a box that we could put lots of different things into that changed. We could have integers, which are whole numbers, floats, which are floating point or have decimals in them, strings, which are pieces of text, names, descriptions, etc., boolean, which is 1 or 0, true or false, and our data, what's called a data structure. Kind of sounds cool, like a car park. Yeah, it is it's a car park full of information, vectors, where we could stack up lots and lots of variables of the same type together to be able to manage many, many things. So if we had 50 names of people that were coming to our proverbial barbecue, we could put them all into a vector. So we're working in C++. Last video we looked at compiling C++ and we made this very, very simple hello world file. Now I'm going to get rid of this main piece here where we were saying hello to the moon, and I'm going to save this out as our variables C++, and we're working in Visual Studio Code. And again, what I've got is I've included the library input-output stream. I've said I'm going to use the standard namespace. So when I use the names of commands, it knows that I'm using them from the standard library. If I were using them from extra libraries, I could add using namespace, Kinect sensor, using namespace, fridge controller, or whatever the library that somebody else had written. Remembering that libraries are just these things full of useful information and knowledge that other people have written that we want to use in our program. So in my main, I'm going to make some variables. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make an integer called, we'll use what we were having in our previous examples, num of people. And you can see I'm using camel case, and because it's in between the brackets, I'm going to indent this a little and make it easier to see. And I'm going to say num of people. And here is a really nice thing. Visual Studio Code, like quite a lot of other simple code editors, does try and help me. It recognizes that I've declared a variable of an integer called num of people. And when I start typing it, it goes, oh, I know something called that. Do you mean this one? So if I click return, it fills it in. What's great is it can scan through and see where I've made some spelling mistakes and come back and say, did you mean this instead? Sometimes it's a bit annoying, but often it's a real help, as is the color coding. So num of people, I'm going to say equals 10. And now I've got the number 10 in the variable, and I can use my console output and say number of is, and then I can concatenate, I can pipe things together, glue them together as a command to send to the console output. So I'm going to say, send this piece of text, which is between the quotes, and add on to the end of it num of people. Now, in the last example, I used slash and n to mean a new line. Here, I'm going to use another command, which is endl, which means end line. And if I save this now, I'm going to go to my console, and I'm going to say G++ to compile my variables, -o to output it to something, and creatively I'll call it the same name, variables. So it'll build the executable file from the variables C++ text file. So I run that, then I can use /var, and if I hit tab, it fills it in. There, number of people coming to barbecue, which we had as text, and then it's put this variable on the end. Let's do this and come back to our code. I'm going to say number of people equals 10, but I'm going to take the lines, copy and paste them. So I'm going to use exactly the same cout console output, but this time I'm going to put 8 into number of people. So we declare the variable. We announce to the world, we're going to have a variable that's an integer and it's going to be called this. And then we initialize it by putting a number into it, or if it was a string, a name of something, number of people is now equals 10. And we print it out to the console using the cout command. And then we change what's inside this variable, this box, number of people, to be 8. And we use the cout exactly the same again. And let's see, I save this. I'm going to come over to my terminal, and what's really cool is if I use the up and down arrows on the keyboard, it scrolls back through the commands that I've issued it. So I can cheat a little bit and go gcc compile, variable cpp, and output it as variables. Run it. It makes a new executable and overwrites the old one in my folder. And if you have a look at the folder, you can see here's the variables text file. And this is just a text file. But when I fire it at the compiler, it munges it down into this executable file. Now, if I say run variables, we declare the variable number of people, we put 10 into it, we print it out, we put 8 into it to update it, and print it out again. Number of people come to the barbecue is 10, then it's 8. Very cool. So let's have a quick look at a couple of other variables, and then we'll go on in the next video to a couple of different things. So I'm going to declare my variables up at the top, and it's quite a good thing to do. So you can see all of the things that are in play within your code are declared in one space at the beginning, rather than going, where is this number coming from? Oh, I've declared another variable halfway through my code. So it's good practice to declare them all at the top. I'm going to declare a string called location. I'll put a semicolon at the end, and then I'm going to declare a float, which is this decimal point number called weight of stuff. So the number of people coming is 10. Then I'm going to say location equals Sausalito. I went there once. It was very nice, very calm. Location equals Sausalito, and the weight of stuff equals 7.25, and I'm going to say that when it comes out, it's kilograms. So get rid of these lines down here. Number of people coming to the barbecue is blah, blah, blah. Location of barbecue is location and weight of all the stuff is weight of stuff, and then actually what I'd like to do is to make it tidy is put kg on the end so it shows that it's in kilograms. And because I'm using console out and I'm sort of using these arrows to pipe stuff to send to this output, here I've got a piece of text and then I add a variable. I can add more text and variable and text and variable until it just becomes confusing. And here I'm just going to add one more bit to say kg as a quoted. So it adds that as just a piece of text. And there I have my variables. So now it'll show me the location, the people, and the weight of the stuff with an integer, a float, and a string. And last one was a boolean that we talked about. So I can declare a bool or boolean, which is on or off. So we call this is it happening? And we'll say is it happening equals, and I could put 1 or 0 in and it'll evaluate it as true or false, but I can just write equals true. And then I can say is it happening? So we're going to output these 4 variables: number of people, location, weight of stuff. Is it happening? And they'll just be evaluated at the point that we ask for them. Here, we declare them, and then we say what's in them. But just like we saw in the last example, at any point that could come back and be changed, and what gets printed out in our console using the C out will be updated. So we now have something that's variable. It can deal with change, have information that varies. So I'm going to save this, go to my terminal, and say G++, please compile the variable CPP file and output it as the executable called variables. Oh, it's coming back. Oh, look, I've spelled location wrong. That's great. So here it's spelled location. Location is Sausalito. And I should have picked that up because you can see here, Visual Studio Code is trying to help me by color coding the names of variables in pale blue where it can recognize them. So I save that again. Let's go up. Oh, and it's picked up another error, and this is potentially very, very helpful because we're starting to deal with debugging and errors, because the minute you start writing code, you get ridiculous errors that make no sense. And part of the challenge is being calm, and rather than just going, oh, it doesn't work, going, it doesn't work. What is my idiot cousin trying to tell me when they've come up and said, you know, it's gone? What's gone? Where's it gone? How has it gone? Why has it gone? When did it go? So we break this down, and it's trying to help us. It's saying in the file variable CPP, line 12, location declared here. And then there are 2 errors. It's saying expected a semicolon at the end. And I can see I put a colon there instead. So let's have a look. Here we go. I put a colon, 2 dots instead of the dot and the comma. So I update that. And that, hopefully, will now compile. Beautiful. Compiles. And I say dot run variables. Hit the tab and it will fill in the rest if it can find a file of that name. And run it. And it says the number of people coming to barbecue is 10. The location of the barbecue is Sausalito. Weight of all the stuff is 7.25 kilograms. And is it happening? 1 is true. So that is a really cool beginning. We've put together our first actually complicated looking program. Let me tidy this up a tiny bit. We've declared a whole load of variables. We've put a bunch of stuff into variables, and then we're using console output to see what's going on with the variables, and we're concatenating or joining together text and the variables, which just get evaluated, or the values get pulled out of those boxes at the time that we want to print them out. So next, we're going to be having a look at doing more with our code. We're going to make simple loops, we're going to look at vectors, we're going to make conditional statements, and just blast through this really super quick, because we've done all of our drawing, we've had a think about how to make loops, I've done some stuff. I promised you that that was everything, and then I added a couple more things on top, but we're really going to do it this time. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, please leave some comments, let me know what's useful for you, what doesn't make any sense, any corrections, any suggestions. I'd love to see it, have a discussion. Hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next video.